Hello and welcome to the Shanty Show, the show about shanties. My name is James.
I'm Tim.
I'm Richard.
And I'm Stefan.
And we are Press Gang Mutiny, and we're very happy to present our 10th episode, and it's a very special episode featuring Mr. George Tall 12 Frederick, as well as Mr. Vince Reed from the island of St. Vincent.
And also joining them is Dan Lanier, and collectively, they're part of the Barely Whalers Project, which is dedicated to promoting and preserving the music of Barely in St. Vincent and the whaling tradition. And in fact, that whaling tradition was basically the last place in the English-speaking world that shanties were still being sung. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it.
Come here, way.
Good evening to listening fans and all within the sound of my voice. My name is Vincent Reed, and I'm from the tiny multi-island state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's in the Southern Caribbean. Let's say about 100 miles, 120 miles north of Trinidad, and about 100 miles west of Barbados. As I said, it's a multi-island state. We are one big island and 32 islands and cays that forms the archipelago St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We do have our own. We're part of the OECS. We are also part of the Windward Islands, which is a smaller grouping within the OECS. And generally speaking, our economy more or less depend heavily on tourism, agriculture, and of course, within the agricultural realms, fishing. And that's where the Barely Whalers come in, as part of the major fishing industry that we have. With the Barely Whalers, each day they go out to sea, and very often it's early in the morning, start at 5 or so, and they get going. And you go row off, and that's back then. Historically, they would have rowed off in a boat, and to assist them with rowing, there's always some songs, and we refer to the songs as shanty, and they're well recognized songs, and they're chronicled in several publications, this being one of the publications, Deep the Water, Shallow the Shore. But the songs are right. The songs are really interesting to me and interesting to a lot of heirs. I just want to throw in maybe the first one. As you go out to sea, you would row. And to row in unison, you would use songs to assist you in rowing. So let's try one of those songs now for your listening pleasure as we start this beautiful program. Yeah? Emmalina girl,
Aya,
come go home with me.
aya,
Emmalina,
aya,
come go home with me.
aya,
Emmalina girl,
aya,
come go home with me.
aya,
Rain is falling,
aya,
thunder rolling.
aya,
Emmalina girl,
aya,
come go home with me.
aya,
Wepo Mesio,
aya,
Messi Ghana tongue.
aya,
Wepo Mesio,
aya,
when the rain come down.
aya,
Blackbird get up,
aya,
and the wiggy tail.
aya, up man,
Whitebird get up,
aya,
and they do the same.
aya, come up strong man,
Oh, me Dana,
aya,
Emmalina girl.
aya,
Oh, me Dana,
aya,
come go home with me.
aya,
Emmalina girl, aya, come go home with me.
aya,
Emmalina girl,
aya,
come go home with me.
aya.
This is a song that you would use to row. Whether you're rowing going out or you're rowing coming back in with catch. not without the catch. If you don't have the catch, you don't sing the song. So sometimes out there, getting out, they would to motivate themselves and get everybody warm and up and going. You would have that song maybe preceding the journey out. And that's just one of the many songs that is in the repertoire of the Barely Wailers. And that was used in Barely during that historical period. Of course, they still wail, but songs are not being used.
I wanted to make a remark just to clarify, and Tall 12, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Puva. He said, that song is not really a shanty. He said, that song is not really a shanty. He said, he said, we'd sing that to encourage the men rowing, because Puva was a captain, right? He was captain of a boat, and he would sing that to encourage the men, but he didn't consider that a shanty. Do you agree with that, Tall 12?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
As a captain, when the gunman see the fish, and the captain encouraging us to sing that song, so we get a rhythm to drop the boat faster, to reach the fish faster.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Puva's correct.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have a question too. I'm wondering how far out they would row and how long it would take and how long the songs would go for and how long they'd stay out.
Well, I will tell you on one occasion, this happened to me. I think it was in August month. In the rowboat, we leave a show to go out. We leave anything like say about 6:30. Water is calm, no breeze. So the sail is in the boat. We row out, then we meet blackfish. And let's say about 4 or 5 miles away from shore, you got to row out. And we meet the blackfish them, we chasing the blackfish them, rowing up and down, no breeze to help us. And unfortunately, we caught nothing that day. And we had to row come back shore again. So, that was a very hard work without nothing. And that encouraged us the next day when we get a little breeze in the sail to go out and get a little breeze to help you out. And we see the fish. As what I just discussed there, when the captain see the fish, blackfish boy, blackfish, jump it. Now we get the zeal. And that song came up.
Right.
To go faster to meet the blackfish because we have a little the sail is up and a little breeze to help you while we're rowing. And while chasing the fish, them, whether they're wild or what, the sun is here and sometimes the breeze will give us the sail will give us a little cooling shade. Many times we're out there, no breeze, no fish, and men just take out the clothes and take a bath and come back in the boat.
So how long, you said there on that day when you went out and you caught nothing and it was still and you were rowing all day, how long were you out before you decided to call it a day and come back? When did you quit?
Well, because of the hardship that day, we didn't stay long out there. Okay. Yeah. I think that particular day that I'm talking about, we leave show around 6:30.
Yeah.
And we came back home about 4:45. Continue rowing.
Long day.
That's still a long day. Yeah.
Unsuccessful.
Yeah.
How many times would you typically actually come back with a whale?
It goes according. That's why we have a special shanty about that one. We have a special shanty about that one. Sometimes we go for months, nothing. We can't even see them. We're not even seeing them. Well, we continue going because so we live in, they will say, well, don't give up. Don't give up. One day, a Congo day. So that's why this chanty came in especially, 7 years. Because we ain't seen it for a longest while. And that particular day, we go off and we meet them, everybody joyful. Everybody joyful. And that's why I love that chanty especially.
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah.
We say 7 long years is because of the length of time we're going off. And we haven't catch none, we ain't say none. So it come to me like years. So we say 7 long years.
7 long years. That's
And
great.
that's one of my favorite chanty.
Yeah, sing it.
7 long years into the ocean. Roll my rolling river. 7 long years I never touch one. We are bound away from this world of misery. Misery. I come to tell you, roll my rolling river. Misery into the ocean. We are bound away from this world of misery. Solid fast, me captain cry out, roll my rolling river. Solid fast, me bowman answer, we are bound away from this world of misery. Only the Almighty knows about our toiling. Roll my rolling river. Only the Almighty knows about our hardship. We are bound away from this world of misery.
Just fantastic.
That's
That was
a beautiful
so,
song.
what a great rendition. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Now that's a version or Vincentian version, but there are lots of other versions of that same song as well, or at least the chorus sounds very familiar. You know, when you were using these songs on the boats, when you were, you know, out on the water singing these songs, did you know at the time that there were, you know, other shanty traditions all around the world?
If anything, they would have been aware that there's a possibility that it was being done on one of the islands in the Grenadines, which is the largest Grenadine island, Bequia, that does also does whaling, but they don't catch the pilot whale blackfish. They do humpback whaling, and it's part of the IWC quota per year. It's regulated, but the blackfish is not, right? It's not endangered. So they would have done songs also, shanties also. But in his time, and remember, he came and met shanties being done, being sung. So he may not necessarily know when he started at age 21 that there were shanties being sung different places in St. Vincent otherwise, or even in the wider world. They may not have been aware of that, right? Of the origin, they just came and met it and just fall in line.
Well, eventually that when I started going to sea, I made those shanties as a young boy at the age of 21. I made those shanties there. And the other one that the rhythm close to that now, it said like all through the rain and squally weather. They have the same chorus, all through the rain and squally weather. It's almost the same like 7 long years. But when we are close, come and show, when we are near to show that we know that the people show could hear our voices, that's the time we let go our voice, so that the vendors will know that, okay, Tortoise Blackfish coming here, this boat Blackfish coming here, so let's go on to see how much, and let's go on and help them to pull up the fish there. And that's a good enjoyment. Sometimes we show 10, 11 o'clock at night. And when we show, the bay is loaded with people, vendors, etc., etc. Everybody come and give us a hand to pull up the fish.
So
Maybe-
I'm curious about this here, because you said earlier that you don't sing if you come back with no fish. And now you're saying you come back late at night and everyone's singing full voice because you have whales. Can you tell us about that a little bit more? How did that look on the beach when you're coming back with a full catch?
Well, I tell you, it's amazing. When we come ashore and we level our voices, and especially if it's late at night, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and especially if moon is shining, everybody come to give us a hand. Sometimes before we reach a show, people gather together, play, make stories, etc. until we reach a show. When we reach a show, well, they come and they give us a hand to help out of the fishes then. And we have, sometimes we when the fishes them already on the land, we join with those around and give us a little antics and a little thing, and a little ring play, all kind of thing. And it's enjoyable. It was enjoyable.
And was there singing when the people were helping, like giving a hand? Was there singing on shore as well?
Well, when we let me see. Oh, the deaf and the blind, come give me a hand. Be away, Yankee, be away to Kegin, be away, Yankee, be away. Oh, be away and let me go. Be away, Yankee, be away to Kegin, be away, Yankee, be away. Oh, yeah, the deaf and the blind, come give me a hand. Be away, Yankee, be away. Oh, be away to Bargain, be away, Yankee, be away.
So you have people singing that on shore.
Okay.
And sometimes when they even pull in, there's some other songs that they would use to help in pulling up the fish, the whale, onto the shore. They generally work songs, not so much shanty, but they're traditional work songs.
In Stan Hugel's book, The Shanties from the Seven Seas, he seems to be getting pretty much all of his shanties from one of his shipmates who he refers to Tobago Smith. And the other one is Harding from Barbados. And as you guys said, that's sort of in the close proximity to St. Vincent. So would there have been sometimes, sailors or whalers coming in from those other islands, or conversely, people going from St. Vincent to work in Barbados and places like that, or Trinidad, or was it kind of localized at the time?
Yeah, so the history of whaling, as we know it, Yankee whaling, I'm talking about, European style whaling. I'm not talking about what original inhabitants of the island. We don't know whether there was whale catching, before a Westerner settled there. But the European whaling came to Bequia in the 1870s. Okay. A fellow named Wallace, who was a son of a plantation owner, Scottish plantation owner, old Bill Wallace. And he set up the whaling industry, which grew throughout the Grenadines. He knew shanties. He's been on Yankee whalers. He married a woman, daughter of a whaling captain from Provincetown, Cape Cod. Okay, so there were shanties there from the 1870s. And perhaps earlier, because Vincentians and others shipped on, other Caribbeans shipped on whalers historically. So we can't say for sure that that's when shantying began there. I suspect it goes back much long before.
Yeah.
That song that Bear Away Yankee shows up in, or a song very much like it, shows up in the 1830s in Guyana, British Guyana. So, as you know, the 1830s would be sort of the very beginning of what we call sea shanties. So, some of these songs go back a long way, very old, and it's very difficult to separate origins. But I would say that as concerns whaling, this was deep sea whaling that had come ashore, and I think the shanties came with it to a large extent. I think that's what we can surmise.
I want to know just a little bit more about each of you. Tall 12, I definitely want to hear, your story. So, Vince alluded to this. You started whaling at age 20, 21?
Even when I was going to school, I have my eldest brother who was a whaler. And school from Monday to Friday, And on Saturday, I went off with him. I could remember the very first catch we made when I went up for the first time. Is a cow, and a calf. And that was my very first day. I said, well, that is good luck for me. And I learned from my brother. I have a next brother who's also a whaler man. But before that, my father was a whaler man with a gentleman in Bowley who was the name of Mr. Griffith Arundel. He was one of the master. So see, he have all the books to use to help you and things. So while going off with my brother during school time, so when I leave school, I had my trade first. I had my father's trade was a carpenter. Then I took up my trade. Then the best trade I took up from them is on the sea. I start going off with the men them and watching how they're operating. And the first time I asked my brother to give me a chance to shot at a fish was in St. Lucia, just to feel how they're going, because I have the potential that one day I'll be a whaler man, I'll be a gunner man. And fortunately, I got my license in 1965. And the very first day I went on my own to shoot the blackfish, a sailorman who was a gunman who was there, he said, Jesus Christ, boy, if you continue so, men will have to frame you. So done. 3 days after, I made my first catch. I remember that well. It was on a Thursday, because I was going off with Alfred, Mason, and one particular day, Alfred, he's missing the fish then, so we said nothing. We didn't vex, but we didn't say nothing. So he believed that he vexed, that he was working my aunt's boat, one of my aunt's only boats. He came ashore and told my aunt that he's not going off and see with me again, because I laughed at him when he missed the fish. It was the other way around. So my aunt asked me if I can use the gun. I said that I was a Bible man too. I said, I can do all things through Christ who gave me strength. And it starts. Before I reached a stage, there's a guy, Philip Charles. He was rated as #1 in Barley to catch blackfish. And from the time your humble servant starts, number one. Well, I started it and I went 1969. I joined the police force. I said, long, I came back. I love my sea. And back to my sea. Repeat again. Sometimes when I went off, that's what I was told when I come back show. People call and bet that I bet you thought you'll bring a fish today. Bet you thought you'll bring a fish today. And something 9 out of 10 times they're correct. Because you see, some of the men them who going off there, they don't use this. They just going by guess. If you shot at a fish at a certain distance and you see how your harpoon travel, you ain't catch the fish. You should learn the next time how to hold it. And that's what I had over many of them. The record I have right now, I think it took place on the 20th of April, 2008. The guy who have the blackfish boat now, engine boat now, one day asked me if I want to go to sea. I said, yeah, because a long time I ain't go.
How old are you at that time?
50s.
In his 50s.
In his 50s around there. It was on a Sunday. 4 of us went off with some blackfish. Fortunately, I struck one. And it's recorded, even in my time as a little boy, is the largest blackfish ever come ashore in Barley.
Okay. Wow.
And it's on record that Tortoise brought the largest blackfish on Sunday, the 20th of April, 2008.
So Barely is a few thousand people, right? The population of Barely?
Roughly about 10,000. Mind you, that 10,000 is split into 3 communities, but although they have 3 communities, people just generally refer to all as just Barley, right? How much boats would you say?
I could remember at one time, we had 11 blackfish boats.
How many crew were on each boat? You mentioned 4 oarsmen. a gunner,
6.
6.
A
Okay.
plus 6. The gunman, the swordman, and the 4 omen. The 4. At one time, my aunt had three blackfish boats. And Mr. Arundel, which I knew for first, he had at one time 4. And yet different men had 2, 3, etc. going down the line. But at one time, I think I could recall about a good amount, 15, 16. At one time, all the boats went off. And it was a day to remember. All boat catch.
Wow.
Everybody catfishes. And I could remember one particular night, moonlight shining. And I would say 3/4 of Bowley came on the beach where they had the shanties are coming in. So come to see how much Tartle have, how much Dan have, how much Reed have. Everybody. It was nice.
That sounds like a good party.
Back then, it was always like that. Back then.
Well, yeah, it sounds like quite a celebration when the boats get back. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do, but it sounds like the community comes together to do the task at the same time, and people feel good about it. Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys must have felt like heroes or something.
Well, I myself, when I start shooting and I start catching fish and start singing my shanty and people coming down, I felt like a hero.
And do you remember that when you were a kid, before you ever went out, your family was whaling? And
Yeah.
when they came back, when you were a child, did you go to the beach and help out? And did you sort of imagine that when you were old enough, that's what you wanted to do?
Yes. Because, my father was there. I have 2 uncles who used to be fishermen also. And those days, as a young boy, when the men them go off, sometimes they come back ashore early, and whatever luggage they carry, food stuff, they don't eat all. They bring back shore, some food, the small boys them, who just be around them. Those days, it was nice. It was nice those days.
And so you must have looked up to them. You must have thought maybe one day that I want to be like that.
When the first time I went off with my brother and I see how he operating out there, I said, I want to be a gunman too.
Yeah. And now you have the record.
I have the record too.
Mission accomplished.
That's the largest.
Yeah.
So once you would successfully harpoon a whale, would you sort of be dragging the whole fish back in one piece, or would you be sort of carving it up out at sea? Or would that depend?
Well, okay. It goes according. Because, for example, that blackfish I spoke about just now, which is the largest one, we cannot cut that up to put in the boat. We tie the tail alongside the boat and we throw that ashore. So when it comes shore now, everybody will come and give a hand. Okay, in the early years with my aunt boat, which was bigger than what they have now, and what they have here now, the big engine boat, we will cut the fishes in. Sometimes one blackfish, we cut them in 7, 8 pieces and put it in the boat. Sometimes you get 4, 5, 6, you can't hold all. You use the smaller ones then to put in the boat so that the boat will have a little level, and then they put the others outside the boat. We call it lift up, you tie the neck, you tie the tail, and put them alongside the boat. So when we reach shore now, it's easy enough to get help to pull them up. But those that are in the boat, the next morning we got to get other fellas now to help us to take them out from the boat to back in the sea and to put them up on the land to the vendors them.
Could you describe the boats for us?
Okay, in my time, the boat was 25 feet long, from bow to stern. 25 feet long, 4 oars, a sail, and sometimes with the harpoon, 8 and 9 harpoon, etc. So we were well equipped. And if we forget, there's a tub. We also have a tub with the rope inside it. a coil of rope into the tub. Sometimes they shot at a fish and the harpoon ain't catching good. Running speed, you got to put it around the loggerhead to stop it. When stop it, when the time you strike, you put the oars in the boat and then turn around, turn the faces to the bow and pull in the line. And the man at stern, they say, Harley, man, Harley. The gun always say, oh, make a second. Harley, man, Harley, Harley, man, Harley, man. And that's a sweet part. And then he said, oh, 20 partners. You shot one. And then a family came, a family of 6 or 7 came around that one. Interesting. It was really interesting.
Was there a song for hauling that line in once you had the whale stuck?
Oh, we just say, Harley, give me one. Harley fast, man. Harley fast. No.
Too fast for songs. Too fast for singing.
When they got man shoot fast, and you come on, Harley, give me man. Harley, man. Just like that. Just Harley, man.
George, when you would bring up ashore a sperm whale or a whitefish, you might sing while you haul it up on the beach. Is that right?
Yeah.
A bigger whale, like a whitefish or a sea wap. Yeah.
Yeah. But we have the shanty that we don't sing with. That's it, sing, you know.
So in the song you sang, you talk about the blackbird, the blackfish.
No. Bird.
It's just like, it's a song that I have made up to encourage us. Blackbird get up, bring the tail, whitebird get up, you do the same.
Okay.
It's a song that I met them with.
A lot of times, right? And you would have noticed, and it was mentioned before, there are songs that have the same chorus or the same melody, right? But the words are different. In Barely, there are guys who are gifted with the art of adding words to songs. So you may not get the original Yankee wailing shanty. You may just have the chorus and the refrain. So you would add your verse to it. You would put in the call part of it. And the response would always be blow the man down or something like that. Right? But you would add words to it. And a lot of times it's something special and unique about Barely. The verses that they add would relate directly to what is happening in the industry with their work or with their crew or with their owner, proprietor. It always, or with the person, people in the town. It always speaks a lot of them. So they would add verses to suit that and to express that. Sometimes express their dissatisfaction for something. And they would do that. So they would add verses to the songs. And so you could have a song. And sometimes if you're at sea and you come and show, the person who's leading off would see something on show and he would add up a line for that. But it would never be repeated in another shanty, no other time. And it's not recorded. You see, it's all impromptu, right?
Right.
Okay, Dan asked a question just now about the songs then that we don't see when you catch the large fish like the sperm whale and the wet fish. Yes, very important. Hey, Booty Monday.
Hey, boy.
You go walk down Sarpan.
Hey, boy.
Hey, Booty Monday.
Hey, boy.
You go walk down Sarpan.
Hey, boy.
Hey, Booty Monday.
Hey, boy.
You go walk down Sarpan.
Hey, boy.
Hey, Booty Monday.
Hey, boy.
You go walk down Sarpan.
Hey, boy.
I go.
Right? And it's also used to pull up the boat too.
Yeah. I was curious, would it be the captain that would be leading the shanty necessarily, or could it be another crew member that could do the improv part, the call part?
No, not really captain. Because, for example, I was the gunman. So say I was in charge of the boat. So I always say I was captain, not the stern man. But sometimes the guy may say, I always say he was one of the best to lead the shanties then. But all year, before even Missy, there was a guy who started in the early shanty from this book here, but he died and gone. He make up all kind of things. Then. He have all different antics, and as what we mentioned just now, he will start a shanty here, and all of a sudden he begin two other words that we never hear about.
Is that Flambeau you're talking about?
Flambeau.
Flambeau.
No, Dennis Smith was talking about it. But Dennis Smith, he was not in there.
Yeah.
Flambeau was recorded as one of the sweetest voices in singing shanty.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. He could have sing. He could have sing shanty. But Missy, that's why when Alfred say he's not available to come, that's why I chose Missy to come, because I knew Missy is the shanty man. But before Missy came, the one that sang the shanty from with Abraham, he wasn't in our group. He was in our group. It was when Abraham came, we went by a shop and to start to record the shanties. But people from all about coming and make noise. So I first said, let's put down the board where the original 6 was there. 6 of them were here, and we pushed the board down and we went off. Where we bowed this down by the corner down there, where by the rock. And we moored the board there and we record the shanties there.
That is in relation to Deep the Water, Shallow the Shore.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Right?
The Roger
That's
D.
how
Abrams
how
book. Yep.
that came about.
And I was also curious, would you be working with the same crew all the time, or was sometimes maybe would someone work on a different boat? Would that ever happen?
Well, sometimes when I call in, for example, my crew always there with me because they have confidence in me. If they got to go out, okay, like some occasions, they might have to leave to go some special way. And they will say, okay, till 12, I can't go tomorrow. If you can get somebody to go, well, then I will go and ask somebody to go with me in place of him until he come back.
Yeah.
But most times they have a regular crew, a regular crew of 6.
Yeah. So you've got your crew of 6 and you're going out day after day, and sometimes you catch a whale and sometimes you don't. And you said that the singing was used for, the rowing, but to encourage the men. It was used for announcing that you've got a catch when you come ashore. It was used for hauling the catch onto the shore. Were there other reasons you might sing a shanty, or other shanties that were used for different jobs?
Yeah, so in the Grenadines, and if we just sort of widen the lens for a minute to the Grenadines, shantying was used, like we go to Bequia. They build boats in Bequia. That's a big deal. They're known for boat building. Like Bob Dylan's boat was built there. When they launch the boats, when they haul the boats ashore for work, when they careen them to work on them, this historically, they would sing shanties, their own shanties for those things, and they would be familiar to you. Some of the songs, Rosabella is one of the songs they would sing. So in the Grenadines, and this is true right down to Carriacou, which is at the southern end near Grenada. A lot of shanty singing for shore-related work, what we would call shanties, because they're familiar songs. They're like sea shanties. But in Barrowley, George has really described the types of singing that were associated with whaling. Okay, what they call shanties, the ones to announce a catch. Those were properly speaking, those are the Barrowley shanties. Now, there's a lot of other songs that the Barrowley whalers in Barrowley and the people in Barrowley would sing. George mentioned ring play songs. Okay, and I don't know if you're familiar with ring plays. It's like in Canada, it might be called a play party game. It's a dance where you sing. There's no instruments. You just you sing it, and everybody, usually in a circle, everybody dances. Barrowley has scores of ring play dances, and all over the Caribbean. Those were the kinds of things that people would do on the beach when the moon was shining and they're waiting for the catch to come ashore. Moonlit night, that's how you would entertain yourself, before radios and televisions and all that kind of thing, right? Deacon, Duncan, Tinago, yeah, Tinago, right?
Yes, there's one.
Yeah. That's an example.
Yado, yado, bella ring a yado. bella ring a yard, oh. Massa say for what we got, massa say for what we something, bella ring a yard, oh.
Yard, oh, bella ring a yard, oh.
Bella ring a yard, oh.
Master dead na left no money, missus have to work for money.
Bella ring a yard, oh.
Yard, oh, bella ring a yard, oh.
Bella ring a yard, oh.
You see, it can go on and on and on and on.
Now that's a very old song. That's an old plantation song. They're talking about the bell ringing in the yard, the plantation yard. Okay, and they're talking about the massa died and left no money.
Right.
Okay, and you can imagine how the mistress had to make money after that. But they sing that one in Beckwith. That was one they would sing in Beckwith, launching boats or hauling boats ashore. And it's one they would sing, if I'm not mistaken, Tall 12, sometimes hauling up a sperm whale or a whitefish onto the shore too, right? So it's a hauling song. Yeah.
I wonder, were you surprised to find out that there were people in other places in the world who were singing these songs for entertainment, sitting around together and drinking and singing work songs for fun and not doing any work?
Well, that's where I would probably tell you about where I came in. When I met Dan for the first time, it was at an environmental conference. Him being an environmental consultant, I was just starting to work with the waste management company in my country. We met. I invited him to see more of the island. He said he wanted to go to Barralee. I was surprised that he knew the name and pronounced it properly. We went. He wanted to look for some old whalers who would have been recorded singing shanty. And
As I recall, Vince, I think we passed a funeral procession as we came into town, and
exactly.
we were afraid that might be the last whaler.
And so when I heard the songs for the first time, I was really surprised that he was saying to me that we have a festival with these songs, and he proceeded to stick a cassette into my player, and I heard the song for the first time, and I was really surprised. It's not just surprised about that people are having a festival, but that did not sound like a song to me. You see, I was of the traditional contemporary way of hearing a song. You have music, you have a proper verse, long with a chorus, and you could even have a video to it. That's what I know. And he's given me these a cappella to listen to and saying they have a festival for these things. I was really, really surprised that across the world, around the world, these songs were so recognized that they had festivals for them. I was really surprised. That really, really got me. So yeah, it did. I was not aware, and it really surprised me when I became aware of it.
Yeah, and that the big change, I suppose, was that people were singing them not for work, but just for fun, right?
For fun, for festival.
Yeah.
As part of a festival. But in the Vincentian realization, and I think in the third world countries, there's not much emphasis placed on historical heritage preservation, right? And so it would always surprise somebody from my region that people would be singing those songs, not in the context in which they were first developed or performed or used, but as part of a festival, a festival to commemorate its history and it as a culture, all right? That is something that we in our realization, that is not important. You see?
So how did it feel to then be asked to travel to different places around the world and share the music at these festivals and with people who you never would have dreamed would have an interest in what went on in your tiny whaling town.
When we went to Mystic for the first time, as organized by Dan, Mystic Seaport Museum, Connecticut, they were reprinting this book as part of the festival without knowing that these guys on the cover were actually alive and coming, right? When I saw the line for autograph, yeah, you don't see that unless it's a movie star. You know, taken aback in a positive way, surprised, I was like, nah, that can't be real. Long lines just to get these guys to sign this book. For those songs, that piqued my interest really a lot and had me going. I was really surprised. It surprised me the first two, and then right there was a gentleman from Holland who walked up to me and invited us to Holland. I was like, this is really surprising. I did not know these songs had such a following. It's really surprising to me.
Can I jump in for a second? Just to give it a little perspective, my perspective. We who are deep sea shanty enthusiasts have tended to focus on mechanical functions of shanties. We talk about our hauling songs and our heaving songs and, you know, short hauls and long hauls and pumping shanties. What we lose sight of, and it's not surprising because we're learning these from books and you know, we're trying to recreate something. We lose sight of it. The shanty at its essence is a performance. It's a performance that happens in the moment, and it's got a big emotional cargo to it, okay? And the fact that these fellows were always performers, the fellows that were whaling, they were always performing. Every time they came ashore with a catch, they were performing. They were singing a shanty to an audience, several audiences. You got the crew of the boat, you got the other boat crews, you got the people on shore, you got the owners, you got the vendors, you got this whole community that you're performing. And what I didn't realize when I invited them to Mystic was they were very prepared to perform. They had been performing all their lives. It's just a new context, okay? They're going to put the performance in a new context and they're going to adapt to it. In fact, I spoke to Roger Abrams. I said, I don't know if I ever told you this, Vince, but I said to Roger before the festival, some weeks before the festival, I said, do you think this is going to work? And he said, no problem. He said, his words were, they're natural hams. What he meant is, you know, they can do antics, what you call antics, Tall 12, right? I mean, you know how to have a good time with the song and how to engage the audience and get them singing and laughing with you. And so there was no problem, you know, reaching a new audience in a new context. And that's what's happened ever since for the past 20 years.
Tall 12, what did it feel like for you to be singing these songs on a stage in the USA and in Holland? How was that experience for you?
Good. I could remember the first night we got to perform. I think we had some rain and it was cold. It was cold. And that gave me the rhythm. Because when you're singing in front of the audience, you can't stand up like a statue and you feel cool, you gotta move it. As we Dan mentioned just now, you had the antics. And when you're performing and you had the antics, you must get the color along with you. I remember, I think it was in Holland. Dan, you remember when I was singing that Poor Old Man?
Yes.
I didn't know the guy, but because of his song I singing, That poor old man, and I pointed at him, that poor old man, looking second bad, he needs somebody to lend his hand.
Johnny come down with a high load, that poor old man.
Oh yeah, that poor old man, look, he couldn't say spread the holy way left leg and throw him downstairs.
Oh, Johnny come down with a high load, that poor old man.
When I finished, two persons came to me. They said, Turtle, you know the man that you're pointing at? It's a minister of the gospel. You know, by saying that poor old man, he couldn't say his praise. Yes. You know, when you win and you win and in front of audience, and you're not in your own home, you're going out. You must show yourself so that you can be recognized anywhere you see. No, anywhere. That's Turtle. From the time they see the book, that's him. So, yes, and I feel so happy, so joyful to be. Yes, I was like a king. Yeah, I enjoy it.
This might be a good time to ask where the name Tall 12 comes from.
Sometime in 1968, I went to sea, and it was raining. And I made a good catch. Those days they had some soft drinking barley from Trinidad. They call it cannons.
Cannons, fruit juices, I think.
So that particular day, I had a crowd, you know, fellas who is a little upstairs, but we just take a little alcohol alone again. So when I came show, take my bath and come back and meet about four of my boys then by a pub. So I went there. I said, boy, I make a good catch, boy, but I'm cold. I want one for the stomach's sake. So I took up the bottle and the glass, and I filled the glass with alcohol, not strong rum. Not strong rum. So from the time I do so, I forgot which one of them said, boy, that's a Tall 12. From 1968
To now.
12 ounces.
1968, I go in the police force. 1969, everybody, Tall 12. And that's I prefer somebody to call me Tall 12 than to call me George. Because let's say three of us are here, and two of us named George. You say, George, two of us, okay, so. No, not you, it's one. So once I Tall 12, I know it's me.
And he's also very tall too. He was 6'1". 6'3".
I'm 6'3".
He's 6'3".
But
He's
not
also
behind.
tall.
It wasn't because of the height I get the name Tall 12.
It was the drink.
It's a drink. And the soft drink that was there, Cannon Tall 12. And the names that suit me. Yeah, it suit me because of my height, yes. I'm Tall 12.
Did you all have nicknames?
I will tell you. My last brother, he's in Canada. He's in Canada now. I spoke to him yesterday. We had a breadfruit tree. And when the breadfruit fell, my mother, whether rose or what, and when it fell, it had a thing where you call a blow. So he was small. He said, every time Tante cook, Tante just give me blows. From then he named blows. That's his nickname.
All you need to do is to say something that is off. And that was it. You'll be called that forever. There's a guy that I know. How people get their names. Marbles. They had a game that we use marbles, this little round glass balls, right? Yeah. And play. And they would be playing marble. But when he comes to play, he wore a helmet, an old war helmet on his head to play the game. And they would call him Helmet. And that broke down to Met. And from that time onwards, that's the name he's known as. Met, meaning helmet. That's how people get the name. And in our country, you would go to Barley and you'll ask, I'm looking for George Fredericks. And most people would not know who that name is, who the person is. But you say, I'm looking for Tall 12. Oh, he's up the road. Immediately, everybody knows who that is. But they don't know his correct name, his legal ID name. No. So people, that's something common, and I believe it's common in Caribbean islands. I'm not sure in your area, but it's common in the Caribbean for you to have some kind of a name, other than the one that is officially on your ID card.
You can get a sense of that from you mentioned Stan Hugel earlier. The people that he learned from, Tobago Smith, I'm sure his name wasn't really Tobago.
Exactly.
Harding the Barbarian, right? I mean, he was, so they all had names, yeah.
Could we talk a little bit about the Barely Whalers project? Because Dan and Vince and Tall 12, I think this was your joint initiative, right, to preserve and showcase the traditions of these songs. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how it came about and what you've been able to accomplish and what might be next for you.
Well, for me, it was a dream come true. You know, when I worked at Mystic Seaport Museum in the 1980s, early 1980s, beginning then, that's when I first read Abrams' book. And I'd heard some of these shanties. Some of them had been recorded on folk music records. But I hadn't heard the real thing or seen them in print till I saw Abrams' book. And it was a dream that, I realized some of these fellas are probably still alive. I knew that George had been only 21 years old in 1968, or 66 rather. So when I had the opportunity to go to the Eastern Caribbean and to St. Vincent, I brought the book with me, my copy of the book, thinking that perhaps I'll have an opportunity. And fortunately, Vince was there, and it was really serendipitous. It was pure serendipity that we met and had time, that he came by and said, "Hey, would you like to go see the island?" That we were able to do this. And that very evening, we actually went to the home of Abrams' chief informant, this fellow Alfred Mason, Captain Mason, who you have read about in the book. And he was still living in Barely at the time, and we had a nice little evening together with Alfred and another fellow, Edgar Mulrain, Master Mick Mulrain, who had sailed with Alfred Mason in the 1940s. It was a dream come true. And I realized at that point that there might be an opportunity to come to Mystic. And so a thing that came to pass, and it wouldn't have come to pass if not for Vince. Certainly nobody could have made this happen. And Vince, as a manager, had the skills, as someone who, his day job was management, and he knew the island like the back of his hand. I knew everybody, and could make things happen, that we were able to put it all together. But it was hard work. It was a question of funding, and it's not an easy thing to move people from St. Vincent to the U.S. And it got particularly hard because this was 2001. You probably recall what happened in 2001 and the travel restrictions that ensued. Each time they went through Barbados, which is where the embassy is, there had to be an interview. And we never really knew. It was touch and go. Are we going to get through the interview? It was a little bit easier the second time, but not much. And the third time, it was just as difficult, I think. But thanks to Vince, who's a guy who can think on his feet and can talk his way through everything, we were able to do it. It was a magical thing. It was a wonderful thing, and I think for many of the whalers, it was a real adventure and something that they enjoyed. So the opportunities came, as Vince told you. We had an invitation to go to Holland in 2003, and then in France in 2009, and we've been to Mystic 3 times. It's touched a lot of people. I think it's brought the Barely shanties into the sort of popular realm in a way that they wouldn't have been. They'd just be sitting in Abrams' book on the shelf, if not for these fellas, and they're being willing to come out and engage the world. It's a wonderful thing. As what's coming next, I don't know. That's a fair question. I'd love to see younger people getting in St. Vincent, taking an interest. I know Tall 12 has done some singing locally at special events and in schools, but there's really no sustained effort or deliberate effort to preserve or to perpetuate the tradition of the shanties at this point.
Acceptance is our greatest enemy. You see, just like how I was surprised about the songs and the following that they had, the people of Barely would be equally surprised with the following that the song had. So much so, they don't even recognize the rich, important cultural heritage that they have. These songs in St. Vincent, Barely is the only place that blackfish is caught. That's where the whalers go from. Nowhere else. Back in the days, there was one other point, but that gave way to Barely, and that was it. So for years, close to maybe 40, 50 years, it has always been just Barely that the whaling was done from on mainland, and that's pilot whale hunting from mainland St. Vincent, only Barely. The songs were done in Barely. The songs were fashioned to speak of Barely and what happens in Barely and what happens in that industry in Barely. But the people of Barely hardly know the songs. Now, remember, gentlemen, that Johnson outboard motor engine came about. Huh? And from the advent, rowing stopped. And then a little later on, the whalers start looking at the economic costs of having to give the fish away. When you sing your songs, come ashore, and you sing, remember the announcement to the community, we got blackfish, and you sing your heart out, come ashore. When they help you to pull up, you have to give them a piece. The deaf and the dumb come give you a hand. So they would all get a piece. They thought and start seeing the economic fall off. And so they stopped singing. So even though they were using engine to come ashore, even though they were using the engines to come ashore, to go and come, they could have sung the songs when they come in ashore to do the announcement. They stopped doing that also. So for the last maybe about 25, 30 years, those songs are not done when you come in ashore. So you would imagine people in their 30s, 35 maybe, would not have heard the songs. And the whalers who knew the songs are all now over 60, over 70 years old. So you imagine where they're going to go within the next 10 years. What is going to happen? The continuation is threatened. Continuity is threatened, right? And at the moment, I'm trying very hard getting persons interested in the songs. Remember, when I first heard them, I almost jumped out of the car and left Dan alone, right? Even though it belongs to your people, your parents, your grandparents, your uncles, your old great uncles would have used these songs, would have sung them. They still don't have an interest when they hear the song because it's not the regular kind of songs. You have to go at them over and over to get them into it. I think I have two persons so far who would willingly get into it and who shows interest, right? But outside of that, we are doing all we can to try and have this recognized. One of the guys who's showing interest, is Mr. Philcal Jeffers. He runs a program at from the 15th to the 24th of December. It's a festival in St. Vincent. I think St. Vincent is the only place maybe in the world that it happens. 9 days, 9 mornings. It's nine mornings before the Christmas morning, right? There's activities, cultural activities, poetry, bicycle riding, and you put all kind of lights on the bicycle. So you see a guy coming down the road, extremely bright and colorful. And this starts from say 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and runs till the sunrise, right? Philcal is doing all he can to get Shanti to be a part of the Barley version of the festival. Right?
That's great.
So what is happening? That's one of the things that is happening. There's a move also, and I'm in line with a teacher, and that teacher is the daughter of Mr. Prover, Milton Anderson. His daughter is a teacher at the school, at the primary school, one of the primary schools. And I'm trying to work with her to get some kind of a festival going in the schools to get the children involved in Shanti singing. And I know there is a recording with children singing The Poor Old Man, and they sounded lovely. They sounded lovely. So all those things are in the making. We're trying to get that happen, and it's all about preserving the oral heritage of the barley whaling industry. Island Rebel Productions. It's Mr. Ockley Olton is currently pushing short film that he's doing entitled Madulu.
My captain cry out, oh, my rolling river, solid fast, my second bowman answer.
That is a short film that showcases the Barley Whalers, the whalers of Barley, not just our grouping, but the community on a whole. And the story surrounds a young man finding out about his family heritage. His grandfather being a whaler, he's now finding out and found it fascinating, right? It's a nice short film. It's a nice short film. The main character is the young man and his grandfather, right? So there's stuff that is happening. It's happening slow. It's happening piece by piece, but at least something is happening.
Okay, and one last question I had, and I think I saw this in the book, in Deep the Water, Shallow the Shore. There was a mention maybe on those quiet days where you might not be catching as many whales. There was Mr. Anansi stories, and I was kind of wondering, how does that sort of figure into?
You're in the boat. It's very calm. You're not seeing a spout, so you have to pass the time. You know, when you're a working person, a person who's fully in the most active part of their life, can't just sit still without getting involved in something. So that's when the stories would come about. You'll get all the old Nancy story, or you'll get people talking about something that happened on another boat. Another thing that they would do, if there are more than one of them, or more than 2 or 3 of them out there, they would go racing. out in the ocean, a race would start.
Okay.
3, 4, 5 miles off, no engine, a race would start. There's even one Ashanti that has that line in it also.
Free we been a trace and then the boogie race. Oh,
Give us some time to blow the man down.
if you give me some time, I will treat you rewind.
Bully, blow the man down.
Let's blow the man right down to the ground.
Oh, give us some time to blow the man down. If you give me some rope, I will tie them like goat. Bully, blow the man down. When you give me some rope, I will tie them like goat. Give me some time to blow the man down.
And if the owner is lame, that's the one she must play.
Bully, blow the man down.
If the owner is lame, that's the one we does blame.
Oh, give us some time to blow the man down. That man come serious. I wouldn't give him a piece. Bully, blow the man down.
And let's blow that man right down to the ground.
Give us some time to blow the man down.
If you see that man looking in real thief in suit,
Bully, blow the man down.
oh yes, blow the man right down to the ground.
Give us some time to blow the man down. I get silk and wrong head, and I wake up the dead. Bully, blow the man down. Blow that man right down to the ground.
Oh, give us some time to blow the man down.
You see, they would be sitting and they would sing that, and they would add lines. So you would look at another crew member, and there's something funny about him, or you would pick up something funny about him, or you'll remember something from show about him, and you'll put a line in to match that. Of course, it would always get some feelings in it. They also speak of the tax collector in the tongue of Barely, and Barely is a tongue. It's among 6 tongues in St. Vincent. So it's a tongue, and there's a tax collector, right? So when you come a show, there's a man who collects, when you sell, he collects the taxes. His name was, at that time, when they added his name to the song, Comsey Reese, right? That's a name. So you heard it. So that man, Comsey Reese, I wouldn't give him a piece. You're not going to give him a piece. He's collecting tax, so why he needs a piece of the fish?
Okay, yeah.
He's standing on his sticks with his head full of tricks.
Yes, give us some time to blow the man down. You see, all those lines are coming about that. If the owner is lame, an owner can be considered lame when they do not provide enough work implements, standard requirements for the job, tacklings, rope, a proper shape or fashioned harpoon, the sail properly sewed and in good condition. If the owner does not provide those things, those are not for the crew to provide. It's your boat, the owner's boat. So he has to provide, he or she have to provide that. So they would sing about it. If the owner is lame, that's the one you should blame. Bully, blow the man down. If you give me some rope, I will tie them like goat. Give us some time to blow the man down. It's telling you what you would do. If you provide the necessary, I would treat you real fine. Right? I would get stuff, I would get fish, I would catch a lot, and you would benefit as the owner. Right? Sometimes they add lines to that song that says, tell she walk with she bottle, don't forget me the glass. And that's Mrs. favorite line.
That's Mrs. favorite, because Mrs. don't want to sing nothing at all until you have the bottle and glass.
So I remember when we were in Holland, Vince laid down the ground rules. This, Macy likes his rum. He'd like to drink his rum But Vince, when we went to Holland, Vince said we're going to be a dry group, no drinking. But the first performance was at a bar. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this.
And he did get some rum.
He probably
On the
did.
show at one point, he said, when that line was coming up, a woman walked up to him with a bottle and poured a drink. And he's like, this is him singing. Till she walk with she bottle, she bring the bottle. He said, don't forget me the glass. And she poured and he drink and he could not sing the next line. And I had to fill in quickly. It's hard on. Right? So he has this thing about adding lines. He's really good. As a matter of fact, his grandson is one of the top artists in our country. I guess he got it genetics.
Yeah.
See?
Oh.
But the ability to add the lines based on the shanty and the reasons behind the shanty, behind the line, is always interesting and unique to Barry.
Dan,
Yeah.
you remember at one time when we said, okay, let's give a story, an old time story. I volunteered to give a story how the agouti lose his tail. You remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The Nancy story. Yeah.
Yes, how the agouti. I learned it from small, and I love it.
And we learn there's a scores of those stories. Dear Rabbit and Dear Nancy. The other, the same one with agouti losing its tail. There are a lot of those Nancy stories, but strange enough, they don't use them anymore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that is lost, I keep saying one of the greatest inventions and killer of cultural heritage is electricity.
Mhm.
A lot of these things would have been done under the moonlight, and family used to be together. From the moment there was electricity, there was no more a moon. And then you came the TV and all that kind of thing to the cell phone. And all those things contributed to the death of a lot of our historical, cultural heritage. And especially so in the Caribbean. Because I can't remember the last day. And this has been years. This is more than 20 years since I've heard a Nancy story. See, those things are just going.
We were talking to a singer and songwriter from our area of the world, up by the Great Lakes in Canada, and he was saying the same thing, that at about the time that the radio came in, a lot of the songs that were sung in this region were starting to disappear. But fortunately, there were a few people who sort of saw that coming. In this case, actually, one key person, and he wrote down all the songs that he could find from the people who were singing them. And if it wasn't for that, we would have lost them. And so I think full credit to all of you for what you're doing to keep the traditions of Barely alive for the next generation to find.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would you sing one more song for us?
Royal Ground Captain, where we bum from. Yeah. Royal, oh Royal Ground Captain, where we bum from.
We are born from Royal Ground.
And we're coming home from Rio. Either way, Rio. Oh, Rio Ground Captain, where we born from? We are born from Rio Ground. That has a meaning also. Royal Ground, so Rio Ground. So shorten the Royal to Rio Ground. It just speaks of some part out there in the sea, don't ask me where, that they, in the sailor's mind, in the crew's mind, anytime they go to that particular point, they would catch. So it's like a royal ground.
Okay, mention from my experience. I used to fish by the moon, with the moon. Now, When it's full moon, I have my special course to go to meet the fish then. And when the moon is young, we go a special point in the area to meet them. So we call it Royal Gong. Here's Royal Gong today.
And the song is so slow.
That's when
It emphasizes that they're coming with a heavy catch. So they have to row really be careful with your rowing. So everything is precision and slow so as not to fill the boat with water, because you have blackfish tied up all on the side and stuck in the boat, and you're coming home heavy, right? And you're coming from Royal Ground. Royal Ground, Captain, where we come from. Heave away, Royal. See? And that is in the soul of the men. This is like happy moments. And as Dan said, it's always a performance.
I feel like we were really looking forward to this one, and it hasn't disappointed. It's been quite a nice time spent.
I just want to say I feel the same. It's totally an absolute gift to be able to connect with this point in time, with this history, Tall 12, with just to be able to kind of learn about your life and to learn about everything that you came from. Man, you're such an inspiration. Thank you so much. Just to have this time with you has been a real gift, a real treasure. Thank you so much.
If you wouldn't mind leaving us with one last song, I think that would be a real treat.
Well, we're about to go, and this signals the end of a beautiful evening. Always it comes at the last. You must say goodbye. Goodbye to everyone, and thank you for having us. Fare you well, Juliana, my boy. Row, 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 my boy. From the northwest we roam, and we're now going home. Goodbye, fare you well. Goodbye, fare you well. Fare you well. We were happy to be here. Row, 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 my boy. We're thankful you all sat and listened on air. Goodbye, fare you well. Goodbye, fare you well. Fare you well. We hope we'll come again. Row, 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 my boy. At this moment, we're happy because we are now friends. Goodbye, fare you well. Goodbye, fare you well. And you could add lines upon lines upon lines.
Last one. Time for man go home, oh, time for goatee and time for dog. Time for man go home, oh, time for man go cover his wife. Time for man go home, oh, cricket and Alabama, Lord. Time for man go home, oh, time for goatee and time for dog. Time for man go home, oh, time for man go hug up their wife. Time for man go home.
Now if the owner is lame, that's the one we must blame. Bully, blow the man down. Tell him walk with his bottle, not for man by the glass.
Oh, give us some time to blow the man down.
If you wait on the lad, you will get your reward.
Bully, blow the man down.
Now the man comes serious, I wanna give him a piece.
Oh, give us some time to blow the man down.
Say you boy in a gun, jumps and dumps and down.
Bully, blow the man down.
If you buy me some rods, I will tie them like gold.
Oh, give us some time to blow the man down.
They ain't keeping lumber to build kerosene.
Bully,